How's it going,
Hello.
gentlemen? Welcome, Retro, Mr. GamingMule. How are you both doing this fine afternoon/evening?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Doing fine myself.
Every time we ever speak to Retro, I always forget what time of day it is over for him. It's quite early in his day.
If you consider 4 p.m. early, yeah.
Well,
I would consider 4 p.m. early, yeah.
Yeah, we've not had any dinner, not had any tea.
No. It's Friday, though, so I can partake of certain things that I would normally save for the evening a little earlier on Friday.
What kind of dinner would you typically have on a Friday? What would be your I can't even think of the word now. Celebratory? Is that what you would say? Celebratory?
I'm usually pretty lazy, so I wouldn't even prepare anything. Might just go make a sandwich or go to the grocery store, grab some like boneless chicken wings or something like that.
Ooh.
In fact, that's actually what I did. I had some dill and sea salt boneless breaded chicken wings. They're actually pretty good.
Yeah. I'm quite a fan of a sandwich. I do like a nice cheese sandwich. I am a basic bitch when it comes to sandwiches.
Cheese sandwich. Like nothing else, no condiments. You wouldn't even put like a little butter on that or anything.
A little butter.
Oh, you got
a bit of cheese.
You got butter on it.
Yeah, it's dry as nails, isn't it? If you have it with no butter on it.
I had a sandwich for dinner this evening as well, and you're gonna love it, Hawk. It's your favourite thing ever.
Lay it on me.
It was a cheese sandwich, like you've just described.
Okay, we're at a good start.
On tiger bread, really nice, crusty tiger bread.
That's not only normal bread, but tiger bread. Okay.
With chili Marmite.
Ooh, why would you do that to yourself?
Do you know what? It was okay. It just tasted like really strong Marmite. Like you couldn't like really taste the chili. You weren't like, oh, I wasn't thinking, I'm going to have some problems in the bathroom in the morning. I think I'll be fine.
Ew. No.
So, you should give it a try, Hawk.
I mean, normal. Well, I mean, I suppose that maybe if it's a bit spicy, I might enjoy it a little bit more than normal Marmite, because normal Marmite tastes like fish guts. Just a bit horrible, isn't it?
What amazing fish guts.
No, when it comes to sandwiches, I am very basic. It's mature cheddar, so it's not even a fancy cheese, just mature cheddar, maybe some ham, some butter, thick white bread, or a cob or a batch or whatever you want to call it. Stick it in my mouth, chew it up, swallow it, and then never think about it again.
Why even chew? Just shove it down.
Yeah, just like
got some practice in, haven't you, Mule?
Yeah.
No comment. Absolutely no comment.
White bread, though. God, no.
You don't like white bread?
No, God, no. I mean, you would probably cringe at what I normally eat. It's like, oat nut and whole wheat, rye, Jewish rye, that kind of bread. That's my shit right there.
Yeah, not a huge fan of rye bread personally. It's a bit dry, isn't it?
What about sourdough?
Dry rye. Sourdough's not the best.
Dry rye.
Dry rye.
I mean, it's better than wet rye, I suppose.
Soggy rye, yeah.
Yeah, slightly.
Can't have that soggy rye.
Moist rye.
Oh no,
that thing makes me think of, what was it? I think that was the word for Wordle yesterday. Was moist.
Oh really? Oh,
yeah, the first. Yeah, I'm on the Wordle. I'm on the Wordle train.
Yeah.
Hey, I am 17 days running. I have gotten every single word. So hey, you get that kind of success, you get addicted.
Who do I have to speak to? What organization do I have to speak to enforce some kind of sobriety from Wordle Retro? Is there anybody I go to speak to get you some help?
No, I'm already getting help for a lot of other things. I don't think Wordle needs to be part of that mix. It's just simple. I mean, it's like 5 minutes, more or less 5 minutes, and you're done.
I think it's a fairly good exercise for the masses, really.
Yeah, it is. It's more of a logic puzzle than anything else. It's not based on like how good is your vocabulary. It's more like, what are the best words to use to try to figure this out?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you see, like tons of like, you know, YouTube videos talking about strategies, or, you know, like Gizmodo making like headlines about like, this is the best starting word for Wordle every day. It's like, just fucking type in a 5-letter word and see what happens, and then just go from there. It's like,
maybe you can
think...
explain how exactly it works, because I know that, because I see so many people like retweeting or posting on Facebook their like Wordle of the day, and I just see a bunch of
me. I'm guilty of that.
Anyone. I've got so many people on social media that post it every day.
I know, and you're seeing like you're seeing the parodies of them too from everybody. They're like, no, this isn't a Wordle, it's just a horsey. You know, it's like, okay.
So
I'm glad you're having fun.
How does it work? How does it work? Because I don't know. I know that it's a web-based app, because I tried searching for
for now
on the App Store, and there was like loads of like carbon copies, but I thought this isn't the real one, and then I found out it's web-based, so I haven't had a chance to look at it properly yet.
Yeah, so it's a private website that this guy is hosting, which also just recently got bought out by the New York Times, and so it's free for now, but it's not going to be in the future. You're probably going to have a New York Times subscription in order to play Wordle. So good job, they killed that fun. But I forget how much they bought it for, like 50 million.
How dare these people have enjoyment from this thing without spending any money whatsoever?
I know. It's just, you know, Mr. Moneybags.
We are a consumerist state, and I want you to consume it for money.
Yes. That is the name of the game. The name of the game is money, Hawk, remember.
Yeah, well, it is a 5-letter word, so it could very well be.
You could use that as your starting word. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the first New York Times Wordle, that is the word, money.
Yeah, money.
But Mule, how does it work? Well, each day there is the solution to the puzzle is a single 5-letter word. It could be any 5-letter word in the entire English vocabulary. It doesn't have to be a noun. It can be a verb. It could be an adjective. It could be an adverb. Anything.
Right.
And it could be, all you're given is 6 tries, and all you do is you type in a 5-letter word using the keyboard that they have. It's web-based, so you have to like use a mouse to actually click on the letters. Ew. But what it does is when you submit a guess, it tells you one of 3 things. Either the letter is not in the word, in which case that's a gray square. A letter is in the word, but is in the wrong place, and that's a yellow square. Or the letter is in the right place, and that's a green square.
I see.
And based on that feedback, your remaining tries, you try to take that additional information and figure out what the word is. The only things that they don't tell you starting off is, the words could have multiples of the same letter, just in different places. In which case you have to venture a guess again to see if there is another letter. And if you do put, like, if you put a word in that has an E, and it tells you that E is in the right place. If another guess, you give it a word that has another E somewhere else in the word, as long as you still have that one E that's in the right place, it'll tell you whether or not that other E is in the word or not, or if it's in the right place. So you do have to, like, kind of poke a little bit more to figure out if there's maybe a repeated letter, but usually you're given enough information to kind of suss out the word that it is. Today I figured it out just because I just managed to get more and more letters in the right place. And then the 4th guess, I had all the letters, they were just in the wrong order, and so I just rearranged it and got the word.
And I think the idea is to effectively guess the word in as little attempts as you possibly can.
Yeah, you're given 6 tries. If you don't get it in 6 tries, you fail the Wordle of the day. And if you had a win streak, then that win streak comes to an end. You just go right back in the next day and see if you can get the next one.
And then for bragging rights, there seems to be a convenient share to Twitter link.
There is. Yeah, you share if you succeed or not, it still gives you the share option.
Oh, so you can share your failures as well.
I have had a few friends actually tweet and show that they failed the Wordle of the day. And I was like, I think today I'm not going to share that I actually got it.
Does it hashtag anything on Twitter so these people can be ridiculed by the masses, or no?
No, actually, if you want to put any hashtags in the tweet, you have to actually. I actually on mine, I manually go in and add the hashtag in front of Wordle, where it says like Wordle 230. That's the 230th puzzle. I put the hashtag in front of Wordle just so it triggers.
So for the Wordle of the day, is it literally everybody has the same? It's the same word for everybody.
Same puzzle for everybody that day.
Right. So somebody could very easily just post on Facebook or Twitter, just like the Wordle of the day is sperm. I don't know. I don't know why that's the first word that comes into my head.
That's very telling.
Talking about moist bread and sperm and just
that
is the theme of this podcast this evening, gentlemen. Moist objects,
dry
viscous
moist
liquids. Have you been tempted to jump on the train then, Mule? Are you?
I've thought about it because I do like word games and stuff, but I haven't succumbed to it yet. But maybe soon. And now that I actually know how it works, it actually does sound quite appealing. To be fair,
has it?
Yeah, it's really straightforward. It's no gimmicks to it.
It sounds a lot like I don't know if you remember this, Hawk. It was probably just in the UK. Do you remember the old Mastermind game that you used to have? I mean, it's named after the quiz show, but
I was thinking
there's no quiz questions involved in the board game. It's basically like Wordle, only it's with colours.
Was it with pegs? Did you have pegs?
Yeah.
I think I do remember it. Yes.
So the person that you're playing against gets the pegs, the different coloured pegs, and puts them in an order of their choice. And then you've got so many turns to work out what the correct combination is for the colours, and they kind of tell you if there's one in the correct place.
It's like battleships, but with words.
We had that board game as well here in the US. It just when you were talking about like the order of the colors, oh my god, that just brought back memories.
Just rewinded 30 years.
Yeah, seriously, like flashback to the late 80s, and I remember playing this with my sister and my dad. Holy shit. Yeah, and you could there were like the little pegs that would tell you how close you were, like how many did you get right.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
Or if one of them was there but in the wrong spot. Yeah, that was it is. It's basically it's Mastermind except with vocabulary.
Is Mastermind a thing in the US? In the old TV shows?
No, I am looking, not the show. We had the board game though, and I'm looking at the version of the board game that I played.
I think in the UK it was just clever marketing because Mastermind's a really popular TV show. So they just thought, right, we'll just call it Mastermind, or it's called Mastermind, and we'll just slap the BBC TV show host on the front, even though it bears no resemblance whatsoever to the TV show.
So speaking of the Mastermind TV show, if you were to be a participant on the show, Mule, what would be the subject? What would you choose to be asked questions about? So for anybody that isn't aware of what Mastermind is, essentially before you participate in the show, you give them a specialist subject that you know a lot about. So for example, if you like trains, you might know a lot about trains. It might be, I don't know, trains from 1960 to 1980, for example. And then all the questions are asked around that subject. So if you had to have a subject yourself, Mule, what would you choose?
That's a good question. I mean, I think off the top of my head, I'd probably want to say like Star Wars or something like that. But
okay, what you mean? Just general Star Wars knowledge, or a particular thing in Star Wars,
or maybe I mean my broader knowledge of Star Wars maybe isn't that great. So maybe I'll try and cut out like the Clone Wars and stuff like that. I'll maybe just say like the original trilogy or the prequels or something like that, or like Star Wars from 1977 to 2000 and whatever when Revenge of the Sith came out. Like, just ignore everything else.
Right, okay. The same question to you, Retro. If you had to choose any subject. that you knew a lot about?
I mean, it's going to be just entirely expected. Yeah, I know. You know exactly what I'm going to say. Basically, like old video games.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Spice Girls or something like that. I'm really surprised that you would pick video games.
If there was a close second, yeah, it'd be the Spice Girls. It would be any sort of like it'd be any sort of like girl band, from the late '90s and early 2000s.
My subject would probably be. See, it's a hard one because I know little about a lot of things.
It's got to be anime for you, surely. Surely it's anime.
And you think anime would be where I'd be the strongest?
You've got like an encyclopedic knowledge of anime. You know all the anime. Everybody knows that if they have a question about anime or they need a recommendation of anime, they go to you. So
they come to me, the anime godfather.
Yeah, the anime guru.
The Anidad.
Or would it be the anime
myself?
GuWu?
The anime uwu. Jesus. The anime GuWu. There's the title of the podcast right there. Jesus.
It's been a wonderful evening, gentlemen. Thank you.
Yeah, show yourself out. But yeah. Speaking of like old TV shows and such like that, is there any like particular old TV show that you watched growing up that you thought, you know what, I would absolutely crush it in this game? For example, something like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or Family Feuds or anything like that.
Oh no, Double Dare. Double Dare. And yeah, Double Dare was like an early it was a family one, but I swear like half the shit that they did on that show did not require the actual like full family. You could have had one person if they knew what they were fucking doing. They could win the entire thing themselves. It was like they had like physical challenges and puzzles, like not really logic puzzles. They were just more like they had obstacle courses, and they had
so it's basically Crystal segments. Maze. This is basically the American Crystal Maze that we're talking about. Double Dare.
I have no idea what the Crystal Maze is, but I would guess no, because this more had to do with like public humiliation of the contestants more than anything else.
No, not
because it was on Nickelodeon, and so Nickelodeon at the time was like everything they do was about slime. Mm-hmm. And so if you failed, well, actually, if you failed or if you succeeded, they took that as a reason to dump a giant like barrel's worth of slime all over you.
Those were the good old days, weren't they?
Yeah,
when slime was a thing. Is slime still a thing? I don't know.
Well, they changed. There was a point where they changed it. It was like they actually sold it at retail. If you remember, I don't know if this ever came out in the UK. It was called GAK.
No, I'm not familiar with the
GAK,
brand.
GAK. Yeah, it was Nickelodeon GAK, but it was basically their attempt to try to like market the
monetize the slime.
Yeah, you could buy little bottles of GAK.
Wow,
disgusting
that really
stuff.
Reminds me of Ivan Ooze in Power Rangers the movie.
Ivan Ooze. When are we going to watch that on movie night? Power Rangers the movie.
It's a great film. I don't know what you're talking about.
After what's up next week? That's what do we have next week?
Power Rangers the movie and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 are the best movies in the 90s.
Oh, that's the one where they go back to feudal Japan, isn't it?
Yeah. Hawk is the only one that is on the defense for TMNT 3.
I really like TMNT 3.
I like TMNT 3 as well. I think it's really good.
I knew that I liked here.
I am outnumbered.
I used to like the scepter things they use, and it spins the light inside, and just that weird sound, doesn't it? It was like. That's one for the audio listeners, sir.
Yeah, get some of that part for the ASMR podcast we got later.
But yeah, Power Rangers, Ivan Ooze, because in that film, right, he gets his ooze and he bottles it up to essentially brainwash the youth of America.
Yeah. I never realized until recently that Power Rangers the movie is like social commentary for capitalism.
We're all learning things. One thing I always take away from that movie is how bad the CGI looked at the time.
Oh, it's shocking.
And it's now when you go, it's below PlayStation 1 level. It is that bad.
Is it as bad as... I don't remember much. I'd have to go watch some of the footage, but is it as bad as like Mortal Kombat Annihilation?
It's worse.
CGI?
It's way
than,
worse
than that. Wow. Oh my god, it's been forever and a half since I watched the original movie.
Although Mortal Kombat Annihilation does have that heinous dragon at the end that the Shao Kahn turns into, and it's like, yeah, and it yeah.
It would have looked better if they'd just done it like just the guy in the suit, like in the miniaturized city, just like smashing cardboard boxes that look like skyscrapers. It would have looked better if they just did that, like the TV show. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, it would have been better if they just took Super Sentai footage from shows they haven't showed already.
Yeah,
and worked it into it.
30-year-old stock footage.
And I remember the Zords actually, because you could buy the Zords, like those specific Zords as well. I don't know if you remember the Megazord you could buy with those specific Zords, and it was one of the most stiffest Zords you could possibly buy. You know, the arms and legs.
Ninja Megazord.
Yeah, it barely moved. It was barely something you could play with.
I never had the Ninja Megazord.
It wasn't like the original Megazord that had the mammoth head shield and it had the power sword. And then that thing connected, you could get the Dragon Zord and you could take the Dragon Zord apart, stick it on top of the Megazord, and then both of those things stuck inside the fucking Brontosaurus. Or it could go inside the big turtle.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think Tor was the name of the big turtle. I can't remember the name of the big Brontosaurus or whatever it was. What the fuck was that
is it called like Titanus? Titanus?
That's exactly what it was called, yeah.
Yeah, this is 1999 Liam talking here. It was definitely Titanus. See,
it was, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a missed marketing opportunity. There's money to be made with those movies. New toy lines need to be produced.
All I want is JDF front and center, starring role as Tommy. No other actor in it. Just a day in the life of Tommy. And he brushes his teeth in the morning. He does some light training, some stretches because he's getting old a bit, and he's getting on a bit now. And then something like catastrophic happens, and he's got and then he does his little morpher thing, and then he kind of teleports to the command center, and then we get to see like a documentary style,
I was kind of hoping that like there wouldn't be anything catastrophic happens. He just goes about his normal life. He's having pancakes for breakfast. He flips them. He goes to an ATM, takes some money out. Takes the card out afterwards. Like that's all I want to see from it. That's all I need in my life. There doesn't need to be any real action.
I'm looking it up actually. He actually lives in Houston, Texas. Did you know that?
Oh my god. Go and see him. Go and stalk him.
You could have been neighbours.
I know. Jason David Frank, residence, Houston, Texas.
We don't say David Jason Frank. Or Jason David Frank, sorry. We say JDF.
JDF.
For life.
Sorry.
It's like JVD, but cooler.
Practitioner of
mixed martial arts. Yeah, he did MMA for a while, didn't he?
Yeah, he has a specific style it's a hybrid style. Full contact. These are like the criteria for describing a martial arts style that I've never even heard of.
He likes to grapple other men then, that's what we're trying to say.
Basically, yeah.
It's a professional.
It is not an Olympic sport, unfortunately, so you won't be seeing him, in the next Summer Olympics. Of course, he is 48, so.
48? I would have thought he was older than that. Although, to be honest, that actually makes me feel quite old. That he's nearly 50 years old. I remember him when he had spotty face. So, yeah.
But JDF never had a spotty face.
Sorry,
you.
I mean, sorry, yeah. He's basically the perfect male specimen, isn't he?
He was. He's incredible.
Well, that was when did he premiere as the Green Ranger? That was 1996? So if he's 48 like now, I mean, yeah, he was in his turned 20. He was like a baby, like just turned 20.
You guys might agree here, but I was fully Team Red until Tommy came along. Then I switched loyalties pretty quickly.
Everybody
straight
did.
to green.
Everyone was Team Red for Jason, and then when Tommy rocks up, it's like, sorry, Jason, you're out of here, bub. See you later, mate. It's all about JDF.
But is he? So this is me speaking as not somebody who's really into Power Rangers, but there's always a debate that I hear raging on about, was he better as the Green Ranger or was he better as the White Ranger?
Green Ranger.
Green Ranger, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was expecting you to say White Ranger then, Hark, actually.
Green Ranger, mate.
Yeah,
But he was banging as a White Ranger as well.
He doesn't want to come out as saying that he's more of a White Power Ranger guy than the Green.
To be honest, I've never picked up on that potential mistake.
The black,
so it was the Black Power Ranger as well,
the Black Ranger, and the Oriental Ranger is the Yellow Ranger. Like, that didn't even click with me until, like, as an adult.
Yeah.
And people pointed it out. And you're like, oh, yeah. That's crazy.
That is a bit suspect, isn't it?
Full-on racial stereotyping.
Yeah. Another little known fact is, do you know why the Pink Ranger has a little skirt, but the Yellow Ranger doesn't have a little skirt?
Wasn't the Yellow Ranger supposed to be a bloke?
Yeah, in the original.
A guy, yeah. In the Super Sentai.
It was a bloke, yeah. There you go, a bit of Power Rangers trivia for you there.
That, you need to incorporate that into your Twitch channel, Mule. Some just Power Ranger facts.
I just want Mule to have a little clip of JDF going like, see ya! Or like punching a putty thing, because they've got like that unique sound, haven't they, when they punch the putty? Yeah, there you go.
and how everything explodes when you make even the slightest contact with it.
Or you can do, Mule could record his very own like Power Ranger morpher thing, where he's like, I don't know. I can't even think of a dinosaur that he could use. It could be a mule, couldn't it? I suppose.
Oh yeah, the most powerful of all the Power Rangers.
He'd be like, "Give me a mule."
what color of ranger would you be?
Brown.
The Brown Ranger. Yeah.
Beige.
Off-white. Slightly stained. Stains on the back and the front.
It's had one too many boil washes.
That's tickled me, that
is. I mean, you have to have like a few curry stains right up here.
I'm glad that you guys
Alpha having to wash them
high
as well.
esteem.
We wouldn't have noticed it if you hadn't pointed it out to us.
Curry stains, by the way, not any other stains.
Oh, I thought that was I thought I specified.
Well, I mean, the advantage of having a brown suit is that it hides the most obvious of stains. If it's a little bit tight up your jacksie, right? If it's a little bit tight up your bum cheeks and you're bending over or you're doing a flying kick, and a little bit dribbles out because you're getting old.
Depends on the shade of brown. Like, you don't want to have like a light brown when you've been drinking Guinness the night before, because then that'll still really stand out.
I was thinking of a very deep brown. I was thinking very deep brown.
Do you carry a color chart with you when you do that?
It's important.
It's like Dulex. It's like Dulex, basically. You got a color match. Do you remember? I'm not even entirely sure whether what generation of what generation of Power Rangers it was, but he had that little boy who was the Blue Ranger, and then when he transformed, he became a man.
Oh, that was I kind of lost interest in Power Rangers by then. I think that was like Turbo or In Space or something. Or something like that.
It's like a tick now. You can't say the word space.
Real special version of Tourette's. He's just randomly shouts out Tim Curry quotes.
Nobody has a clue what you're talking about. Just
anybody that's not played Command & Conquer Red Alert 3, just don't worry about it. If you hear me go spice, just ignore me.
Speaking of like 90s paraphernalia, do you guys remember Toxic Crusaders?
Oh, yeah. I do, vaguely, yeah. I remember that being a pretty cool cartoon.
Do you remember it being based on the Tromaville movie of the Toxic Avenger?
I do you know what? I only found out about that existing probably over the past year or two, and I haven't watched it yet. Is it any good? Is it worth watching?
It's a great B movie. Yeah, the Troma movies are, let's say that they're targeted at a certain ilk of cinema goer.
Yeah,
they're not everyone's cup of tea. It's very low budget. There's nudity. There's bad acting, bad cuts, bad
That
makeup.
sounds awesome. So it's like a Grindhouse movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Awesome.
Not too dissimilar from that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend a few weeks back talking about the Toxic Crusaders and how I had no clue that it was based off a adult B movie, and they'd made it kid friendly, and then made a whole toy line out of it.
Wasn't it Toxic Avengers, not Toxic Crusaders?
No, so Toxic Avenger is the Troma movie, and they changed it to be the Toxic Crusaders, and they called the main guy Toxie or Toxie? Is it Toxie?
Yeah, I think it was
Toxie, like that. And then they had like the different characters, much like essentially it was like Bucky O'Hare or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was that formula, Bucky Mice from Mars. That formula just regurgitated with a slightly variated array of characters, basically. But the origin was the same. It was they were mutants. In the old Troma movie, it's the guy falls into like a vat of acid in a tutu, and then he mutates into a muscle-bound guy with super strength that fights crime and wears a tutu.
Obviously, I mean that's what we would all do, wouldn't it?
And he has a blind girlfriend.
Especially wear a tutu.
Yeah, one for movie night. Who knows?
I think so. I think that'd be great.
Do you have any other favourite B movies, like movies that are terrible? Have you ever seen Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
I haven't.
Parts of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it's a movie. That's all I can say.
it
exists.
Thing. You can watch it.
It exists. Yes.
It's a bit like Leprechaun as well, right? So with Warwick Davis. Not many people have watched those types of horror movies.
I've seen bits of them. I've seen reviews on them, but I've never actually sat down and watched any of them all the way through. I'm not sure if I could bring myself to do it. I mean, I know they're quite popular movies, but I'm not sure how I feel about them. Not scared of them or anything like that. I just think it just looks a bit shit. I'm sure. I would... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I mean, I don't think the first Leprechaun is actually that bad.
It's got Jennifer Aniston in it. Her first acting credit.
It's a new IP, so you're kind of interested in where it's going, and it's typical horror tropes. It's not really that scary though.
No,
I mean, and even the horror, the gore in it is really subdued. But it's a fun time. I was thinking I was kind of lumping the Leprechaun movies in with like Child's Play.
Mm-hmm.
Child's Play is not scary at all. And yes,
is it more of like a comedy rather than a horror?
The first, it's got elements of comedy because he's a leprechaun, and the idea is that he turns things on their head on purpose. So he uses their words against them, basically. So it's like, if somebody wishes for something, or I really want this, then he'll find a way to make you pay by that method. Like, I want to be rich, so fill your belly with gold and then you die.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is it's like the monkey's paw in like The Simpsons or whatever?
Yeah. I forgot about that. The monkey paw. Yeah, it's exactly it. Or if you've seen What We Do in the Shadows, it's like the leather hat, the skin hat, should I say? But yeah, other like we were talking about like a whole kind of like plethora of movies, and Masters of the Universe came up as well, and watching Masters of the Universe now as an adult versus as a child. As a child, I don't think I could see anything wrong with that movie whatsoever. I'm pretty sure I thought it was the perfect movie, right down to the terrible synthesizer sounds in it.
Is that
also a first like a
It's Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph Lundgren, yeah. And I had no problem with it. And then I would say maybe within the last 3 years, I've seen it a handful of times. And it's not a great adaptation. It's not by any stretch of the imagination. The worst thing about it is Dolph Lundgren's accent. He does nothing to hide the fact that he's European. So when he talks, you can barely understand what he's saying. Until the end, where he says, "I have the power," and that's it.
That's all he needs to say. I mean, why is he speaking throughout the rest of the movie anyway?
He's never Prince Adam in the movie as well. It's always He-Man from the get-go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I do remember seeing that as a child, and I really enjoyed that film as a kid. But I don't think I've seen it recently as an adult, so I can't.
So Man-at-Arms, Teela, Orko, He-Man, Evil Lyn, Skeletor. Is Beastman in that movie? I'm not sure he is.
I think he's very briefly at at the start of the movie.
Maybe during the war.
Yeah,
on Eternia. Anyway, yeah, Orko is what I wanted to get at. Orko's cinema representation is less than ideal because he just looks like a fish with ginger hair that hides in the sand dunes and plays on his synthesizer.
I think that sounds amazing. I don't see what the problem is.
Typical Friday night. Playing his synthesizer.
But they kind of replaced him in the movie with this other character, the dwarf.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I see. Right. They take the Orko that we know and they create this other Orko that is so far from what we expect or needed.
He's Norco.
And he's the actor who has been in loads of movies. The guy who plays this character.
Except you wouldn't recognize him because he has like 50 pounds of prosthetics and makeup on his head.
Yeah. And he's always have one eye semi-closed when he talks.
I
talk like this.
Well, because we watched Willow a couple months ago on movie night.
Yeah, he's the elder.
Yeah, he's the pygmy elder in Willow Mule, if you remember.
The village elder at the start.
I don't think I was there for Willow. I think I was busy that night, unfortunately.
Okay.
An
old, wizened sage kind of character.
The Willow sequel that we're getting now. In the next 1 or 2 years.
Getting a Willow sequel.
I did not know about this. My biggest news of the day was I was on Twitter and saw that there's an Amazon Prime, Amazon Video spin-off series for the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, the Rings of Power?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you only just heard about that?
I just today. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that's been in the works for a while. But it was only recently that I found out that it was a spin-off. I thought they were making a TV show of the Lord of the Rings.
The original trilogy, yeah.
So I was like, that could be really interesting. I love the sound of that. And then when I found out it was a spin-off series, I was like, I'm not as interested now as I was before.
I wasn't sure whether it was going to give us the story about the Rings of Power. So, the very start of the Fellowship where they go, we give the 9 rings to the humans and the 8 rings to the elves and all that kind of bollocks.
3 rings, Hog.
Sorry. I'm not clued up on my Middle-earth ring knowledge. But yeah, that segment is essentially what this TV show is about, right? September this year, right? It's supposed to be Amazon's most expensive or the world's most expensive budget or biggest budget TV show ever made.
Oh, I thought it was going to be based off of the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales. So it's specifically about the rings.
Well, the show is called The Rings of Power. I'm not sure how many stories in the Silmarillion offshoot about the Rings of Power.
Not much.
This is coming from someone who read the Silmarillion very quickly and retained none of the knowledge.
Same here. My recollection of the Silmarillion kind of ended when anything actually took place on Middle Earth, whatever they called the realm at the time. But yeah, at least my interpretation of at least all the different tweets that I was seeing, because it was showing different promotional posters where you saw hands with the different rings on them, and most of them, at least every single one of them, at least looked human. And
Mhm.
so I think it's going to focus more exclusively on the 9 human lords that are given rings that end up becoming the ring wraiths.
Okay, that could be interesting. actually.
Including one that was interesting looking because it looked like the kind of garb that he was wearing, and he also had darker skin, so it looked like he was part of the South-Run tribes, like the quote unquote evil humans that side with Sauron during the third era. So apparently one of the ring wraiths was like a South-Run lord. So we get to see a little bit more of like these other cultures that are never represented other than as being evil in the Lord of the Rings books.
Talking of Lord of the Rings, do you guys ever remember the classic PlayStation 2 titles? The incredible Two Towers video game and Return of the King. Two Towers specifically.
You talking about like they were like the action RPGs that came out?
Oh, yeah.
No, I never played them. I know that they were really popular. I remember a friend of mine being absolutely obsessed with the Two Towers game.
Yeah.
The only Lord of the Rings games I had from around that era was the Battle for Middle Earth, the RTS games. They were really good, but I didn't have the PS2 games that you mentioned.
Have you played Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor, the two more recent Lord of the Rings?
I have Shadow of Mordor. I've been looking at it for years, thinking I need to play this.
Well, it's an original story, right? It's a canon original story.
Yeah, it's like an expansion of what takes place immediately before the Fellowship of the Rings. It's I don't know how many years before it, 30 years, 20 or 30 years before the Fellowship starts.
I heard the Nemesis system. I think it's called the Nemesis system. The system they use in it to move around the orc army, and they move up or down depending on who you kill and all that such. That was recently bought by a company. So that idea, that concept is an intellectual property now owned by either a developer or a publisher. I'm not entirely sure, and I'm not entirely sure who it was. I'd have to fact check that. But
it was. Did you play it, Hawk? I'm just curious.
I played all of Shadow of Mordor. I have not played Shadow of War.
I actually enjoyed it for the most part.
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
The combat was very much like straight out of. Mule. If you've played any of the Arkham games, combat in Shadow of Mordor was basically
right down to the even the stealth attacks when you climb up, jump down,
which it's just stuff. What you ended up dealing with was, as Hawk was talking about, was the Nemesis system, where you have orc lieutenants and captains, and they can eventually become like war chiefs.
Yeah.
So based on your actions.
Exactly. So if you were, I don't know, you lose a battle to one, he moves up a rank to captain, and then the history of you fighting this person, whether you've won or lost, for example, like permeates through the structures of the armies that you're fighting, and each of them have like randomly generated names, and the orcs look randomly generated, and they've got funny voices. They're all British, aren't they? Because we all talk like that. I can't believe you're evil. I'm going to eat your guts. They all talk like that. But the subject I was going to get to was this new Gollum game that's coming this year, the stealth game. What are your thoughts on that, gentlemen? Does that pique your interest?
I honestly, when did they first announce that? What was it, like last year's Game Awards is when that came out? I don't know.
Quite possibly.
I just kind of shrugged and was just like, whatever.
So we know very little about it. We got some more information towards the end of last year with a trailer, really just reinforcing what we believed it was going to be about anyway, which is Gollum in the mines with the ring.
Okay, so it's set before even The Hobbit.
I believe so. I believe so.
Can't say that I'm personally hyped for it or anything like that. I mean, yeah, I'll keep my eye out on it, and I'll keep up with the any news that comes out for it. But when they announced it, I was just sort of like, Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
fine.
Similar kind of representation. Yeah, that's my reaction too. It's just, you see this in movies a lot too, where truly despicable characters. Yeah, I'm not saying that Gollum is like purely evil, but he made his own choices, and so he is a villain in the books. And
it's vilified, yeah.
I'm getting a little sick of. I don't know where this is the direction that they're going to take with the game, but it at least makes me hesitant that I expect that they're going to go down the same road that you're seeing in a lot of movies recently, where it's like, oh, they're not really villains, they're not evil, they're just misunderstood. We just need to get their story from a different light. I'm afraid that that's where they're going to take this, and it's.
Well, I think in part they do that in the trilogy, right? When they let you know that he was originally a hobbit, and through finding the ring and the lure of the ring,
that it warped him, it corrupted him.
Yeah, so you're supposed to, during the period where they kind of want you to feel sorry for him, you do feel sorry for him until he, does the unspeakable and off your finger comes.
Oh, spoiler alert! Jesus,
Jeez, come on!
I mean, how old is that movie now?
Christ,
it's only 20 years old.
How old's the book?
Yeah, 72, I think. I don't know. Those books were like big back when my parents were in college. That's how I'll phrase that. Yeah.
Your parents went to college? Educated people.
Yes, my dad got a bachelor's. My mom did not graduate and actually finish a degree because she got married and had kids and
had children.
Was a homemaker. that takes a lot of work.
Oh, trust me, I know all about that.
So anyway, we got sidetracked.
So going back to the whole Gollum thing, that kind of leads me to talk about Sony's acquisition of Bungie, right? So that was the conversation we were going to aim to eventually come to anyway. So Microsoft's purchase of Activision Blizzard and Sony's recent purchase of Bungie, which I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting Bungie to look for a partner since their separation from Activision, because the whole reason of Bungie wanted to separate from Activision was because they didn't like how they were being made to monetize the game, like the direction the game was being forced to go in order for them to be able to make more money from the property, because they were essentially losing creative control over their own product, right? Because the money was coming from Activision to finance it all. So they split off, and Bungie were an independent studio publishing their own game. So it was a bit strange to see news of Sony, although I read the press release, which was we retain. They made sure that the bullet points they covered were we do retain creative control. Basically, all the things they moaned about with Activision, they made sure to retain in this press release to say we still have access. We still are the creative entity behind it. PlayStation are just a global partner, one that we wanted. I was very surprised to see that.
Perhaps I might be wrong in what I read or my interpretation of it, but from what I could tell, they get to retain sort of like control over Destiny, but it's
that's right,
not necessarily any other projects that they might undertake
in the future
through Sony. So I think that might be, maybe that is why Sony got them, because I really don't feel like Destiny is worth that much. I mean, I'm not a developer or a publisher or anything like that, so I don't know how the industry works, but I really don't feel like Destiny's that much of a hot commodity to spend that amount of money on. So presumably Sony more wanted to obtain them for the studio itself rather than...
It was $3.6 billion, right? The acquisition was $3.6 billion.
Yeah.
Which, up on the face of it, that's a lot of money no matter which way you look at it. But like you say, for Destiny, is it worth right now? Is Bungie worth $3.6 billion? Probably not. Probably not. In terms of sales for the game for Destiny. right now, if they, for example, Witch Queen is their newest DLC, right? Do you think they would achieve anywhere near that number
No,
in sales?
not.
No.
Let alone costs of being able to make that and maintain Destiny, because that was supposed to be Destiny 2 was supposed to be the Destiny IP was supposed to be a 10-year IP. So you lay that against the acquisition that Microsoft made, which was reported around 75 billion. So that's quite a big jump, 3.6 billion to 75 billion. What do you think Microsoft gain out of that? For example, we already know that Activision Blizzard's got a quite negative name right now, right? So all the things surrounding that company outside of the games that they currently develop, all the news with regards to the sexual harassment at the workplace and all this stuff, and it just piling on and on and on and on and on. So I think Activision Blizzard gain a bit of face by joining with Microsoft. It's a positive move for them, because I don't think Microsoft can be seen as negative right now. I think that's a positive spin on a negative story for them. It's a new facelift, right? It gives them the opportunity to almost, quote unquote, without doing it, rebrand or resell themselves back to the public for any future games they develop. But what benefit does that really offer Microsoft? Do you really think they would benefit from being able to make any of those games exclusive to their systems, PC or console?
I think they would.
I think very much so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about the amount of properties that Activision Blizzard has, especially ones that are still super hot right now. I mean, even Overwatch is still super popular, and that's been going for years, and obviously, World of Warcraft is probably one of the biggest ones. But there's not, there's all the obvious ones, but then, of course, there's a lot of properties that they're just sat on, not doing anything with. As I understand it, Activision Blizzard acquired themselves a load of different studios as well, and just didn't do anything with them. I think they acquired Sierra. So they've got loads of old IPs from like the 90s and early 2000s that were popular at the time that nothing's been done with them. Whether or not they do anything with them is a different story, but they at least have those and have those options to do them. So I think that's one of the reasons, on top of many, many others, why it's probably a very, very sound investment, even though it was a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of money. Well, I mean, Activision Blizzard and it was another studio called King, right? So it was three. So Activision Blizzard and King.
Of course, I forgot about King. Yes,
King known for Candy Crush, right? And I think everybody on the planet knows Candy Crush. Although we don't like to admit the fact that mobile gaming is a thing, and we'd much rather ignore that aspect of gaming entirely. That's not to say that it's without its popularity across the world, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I would probably hazard a guess that I'm more the target audience for a mobile game like Candy Crush is a much wider net. It's a bigger spread than maybe something like Call of Duty or Diablo, right? It's gonna be more people that can play Candy Crush than there are going to be playing Diablo. For example, my own mother would probably play Candy Crush. Would you play Diablo? Probably not.
She wouldn't play Diablo Immortal?
Probably not. Yeah, and even then they've got properties on mobile,
what
right?
So would she be?
So yeah, so you guys believe that Microsoft they get positive. That there's positivity in them being able to acquire this, because it's not the first piece of news that we've had in the last year or so about Microsoft spending ludicrous amounts of money purchasing studios to make exclusive games for their platform. With Game Pass, like passing, let me just add the stats up then. Game Pass has recently got a new milestone on subscriptions, right? And it's 25 million subscribers right now on Game Pass. So that the plan, naturally, this is the source I'm reading here is directly from Microsoft's press release about the subject. That Game Pass has recently reached a milestone of around over 25 million subscribers. So the plan is to launch Activision Blizzard games into the Game Pass, which means no more, I assume, no more Battle.net. It's going to be fully incorporated into Game Pass.
Probably no more Battle.net, but I would not be surprised if they still maintain any of those games that still work on a subscription service.
What do you think about exclusivity? So Call of Duty, I think the statement was along the lines of, we'll honour the contracts we've got in place with regards to multi-platform releases on these games. I'm not entirely sure how many games that might extend to. I'll use Call of Duty as an example here, right? So it's, although I'm not a Call of Duty player myself, Mule, you kind of dip in and out to Call of Duty every now and again. I'm not sure about you, Retro, whether you would consider yourself a fan or not. No. So as far as my experience with Call of Duty is all I see is yearly releases, right? A Call of Duty is an annual release. It's no different than a FIFA or an NFL game, right? Or a golf game or whatever. It's a yearly release. So would you think it would be a smart move or a bad move to make? So maybe not this next Call of Duty, whatever iteration we're going to get. Maybe that is part of, we'll honour the contract. But going forwards, let's say after the next 2 games, do you think if they turned around, Microsoft turned around and said, right, this is now going to be exclusive to PC and Xbox, do you think that would be beneficial for them, or do you think that would be a bad thing for us, for gamers in general? Essentially forcing people to be able to only be able to play a game on their platform versus when it was already a pre-existing IP on other platforms.
I think they're screwed either way, to be honest. I mean, I think probably the most even-keeled path that they can take is that they would still allow a lot of the mainline entries in Call of Duty, whatever other IP they're talking about, to be multi-platform, but that they remain that they still retain the right to have exclusive entries developed for their platforms.
Yeah,
or maybe that there's exclusive content, DLC perhaps, that is only released on their platforms. But it doesn't seem to me that in Battle.net, at least, I've just got Battle.net open, you don't have the entire catalog of Call of Duties available.
No, I think it's the last 2 releases, right? I think so. You'll have Vanguard, Cold War.
You've got Black Ops 4. You've got Black Ops 4, Cold War, Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, Vanguard, and Warzone. That's all I see.
Warzone being the Battle Royale.
Yeah, the Battle Royale.
The free-to-play Battle Royale.
I thought they had others on Battle.net, but I don't know for certain. But yeah.
So Mule, you're actively playing Call of Duty Vanguard right now. If they turned around, and where are you playing that right now?
I'm playing it on PC at the minute.
Okay, so for you it wouldn't be a concern, but if you were playing this on the PlayStation 5 and they suddenly turn around and said, right, from, I don't know, June this year, we're sorry to say that Vanguard's only going to be available on available on Xbox and PC, but you own the PlayStation 5 version of that game.
I mean, I'm not a huge Call of Duty fan. I like Call of Duty games, because they're just sort of mindless shooty bang bang games, and it's good to have things like that occasionally. So for me personally, if they decided to make it, let's imagine that I didn't play on PC, as you say. If they turned around and said it's exclusively now going to be on Xbox, that wouldn't be enough to make me go out and buy an Xbox over my PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
But
if you could find one.
If you could even find one, yeah. But I think maybe like the younger audience, because all the kids, all the youngins these days, they love their Call of Duty, don't they? So perhaps like in the future that might make them ask their parents for an Xbox so they can play Call of Duty with all their pals,
or at least a Game Pass subscription, so you can play it on there. So they make it a subscription-based model instead of buying the game outright.
Is that something they've said they're going to do?
No,
I'm not sure how I would feel about that.
Natural progression would be if they want to be able to include day one releases on Game Pass, because a new Call of Duty day one would sell a subscription service.
I see. So when you say subscription service, you mean Game Pass?
I mean Game Pass. Yeah.
I thought you meant, for some reason, I thought you meant like an exclusive subscription just for
No,
Call of
not,
Duty.
not like Final Fantasy 14 or an MMO. No.
Right.
I'm talking like because essentially their goal is they want as many people subscribe to Game Pass as they possibly can. Whether people use it or not is another story. They want people to get their foot in the door, or they want to be in the building, right? They want the money in the bank. They want you to pay them every month for games, and they just want to absolutely throw as many games at you as they possibly can, because they don't really care whether you play them or not.
I think it would drive a lot of people to Game Pass, because traditionally Call of Duty games are always quite expensive and very rarely go on sale. And you've always got like this ultimate super deluxe fantastic edition, which costs like £100 or something like that. So if you've got all of that with a subscription service where you're paying £10 a month or whatever it is, then I think people will kind of flock to that.
You've also got the concept of being able to uninstall a game that you haven't essentially bought. Let's say, for example, the next Call of Duty flopped terribly. It was an awful game full of bugs and glitches, but you could play it day one on Game Pass. You could effectively download, find those bugs, glitches, things you don't like yourself, uninstall it without it costing you £70, and then a trip to your local GameStop to return it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it could do Microsoft's. I think it could bring Microsoft a lot of business if they do make it exclusive.
Because we'll talk exclusives now. So in terms of like the exclusive that Microsoft have right now on shelf, I can only think of one, and that's Halo. That? The only big IP I can think of right now.
You got Forza Horizon,
Gears.
Is that? But I'm talking about games that you can play right now. New exclusive games that have come out since the Xbox Series X launch.
Okay. The new Forza game came out. Yeah,
Forza 5, pronounced Forza apparently.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, with a T.
Obviously, you can play it on PC as well. I don't know if you.
I count them as the same, right? So because they're both owned by Microsoft, PC console. Because the idea, the idea of Games Pass is originally there used to be a divide, but now they're trying to mash it so it's one service. Doesn't matter where you play it.
Ultimate Game Pass is what it is, so you can get both of them.
Yeah. So in terms of exclusivity, I think most people would probably agree with us here is that PlayStation or Sony certainly have the stronger lineup of exclusive games, especially during this whole launch period of. I mean, I would say they're not even in a launch period now. They've been out for over a year.
It's just crazy to think when you.
People are still selling organs to be able to find these devices online, right? At a decent price without paying for scalping prices and whatnot. But yeah, going back to the subject of exclusivity, so Microsoft have like Forza and Halo, which, I mean, Halo Infinite, I've played it. Mule, you've played it. Retro, I'm not sure if you've played it.
Bit of 4, but not the newest one.
It's very good. It's Halo. It's the Halo we all know and like. It's the same formula, with a bit of modern gameplay thrown in, and obviously the graphical upgrade. Forza, it's the same Forza. The Forza Horizon. Is it Forza Horizon? Is the open world?
4 was Horizons. This is the new. The
right,
5
yeah.
is the newest one. Yeah.
But it's the same concept as Horizon, right? Where it's the open world, you race around, you find things.
Yeah, so, it's good. I've played it. It's good. I like it.
It's very good. It's a good racing game if you like racing. It's less of a driving sim, more of a racing game, right? So it's not quite Gran Turismo, but it's not quite Burnout.
Yeah, it's sort of arcadey, but yeah, it's not a driving sim as you say, like Gran Turismo, but it's also not like Need for Speed.
It's definitely more of a sim than like the Need for Speed or the Burnout series.
So then you put that you line that up with exclusive games on the PlayStation. Could you guys name some exclusive PS5 games?
Ratchet and Clank,
Demon's Souls from the off.
Yeah.
Offs.
Returnal. That stupid shit game, Returnal. I don't want to talk about
it. What? Returnal's great.
Fucking garbage is what it is.
I love Returnal. It's hard though. It's hard.
You like closing your dick in a door is what you like doing.
Okay, so I'm going to bring
Listen,
up here. I'm going to
I
bring
thought
up.
we said that we don't kink shame here, between us. All right.
No kink shaming there. So I'm going to look up the 2022 lineups for both consoles in terms of exclusives releasing this year. So we'll start with Xbox. We'll start with Microsoft. So they've got, as far as I could tell, they've got a few this year, but none of them are particularly big names. So I'll just fire through some of them. Crossfire X, Tunic, Stalker 2, Starfield, Shredders, Warhammer 40k Dark Tide, Redfall, Scorn, Somerville, Slime Rancher 2, Replaced, and Ark 2.
The only one that stands out to me is because a lot of people are excited about it is Starfield.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Starfield will be a huge release. That'll be massive.
And then we go over to Sony and we look at their 2022 exclusives. And we have coming this month, in fact, Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, God of War Ragnarok, Forspoken, Ghostwire Tokyo, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Marvel's Wolverine, Knights of the Old Republic remake.
I had 5 that just popped out of all of those. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys are a little more excited about Forspoken than I am, but I'm just when the announcement for that game, I was just kind of like, whatever.
I think it looks really good. I'm not hyped for it yet. Maybe closer to release, I might be a bit more hyped for it. But it looks good. Like it looks good, but I'm not like woo just yet. Not like some of the other stuff that you've just mentioned, where I am definitely woo. Yeah.
Well, where out of all of that is? You said that was just this month.
That's this year, 2022.
Oh. Where was Elden Ring?
Imagine if all of that came out this month. Jesus Christ.
That's not it's not an exclusive.
Oh, that's not exclusive. Oh,
no.
shit, I thought it was. I thought that was a PS5 exclusive for some reason.
No, it's not an exclusive. So the games that
it'll run better on PS5 anyway, so whatever.
But so yeah, I think it's very clear that the lineup of PlayStation, again for the second year in a row since the console released, has the better exclusive titles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you could argue that. So,
no,
it's what I'm trying to get at is Microsoft's acquisition of studios in an attempt to be able to create new IPs to challenge the IPs that Sony already has exclusivity over is alarming. And I think a lot of people on the internet right now are a little concerned that it's now going to start becoming a free-for-all, a backwards and forwards, who can acquire what to control which IP, and there won't ever really be, or the eventuality being, you won't get an Elden Ring on all consoles or all platforms. You'll get an Elden Ring on PlayStation only, or an Elden Ring on Microsoft only.
Well, to what I would say to that is, welcome to the console wars, ladies and gentlemen. This is only a repeat of what took place more than 20 years ago when you had GameCube, PS2, and Xbox all fighting for dominance in the market. This is what happens when you have, at least at this stage, 2 powerhouses. Nintendo's just content to play in its little corner of the sandbox and ignore the two the 2 kaiju that are fighting in the cityscape behind it. But they're in it for money. They want to hold the dominant market share, and so exclusives are going to be a big part of that. Mm-hmm. And so buying up IPs, buying up development studios is part of the game. And if you find yourself sitting on the wrong side of the fence when you've bought a console and it doesn't have the right IP on it, then I'm just sorry to say you're just SOL.
So the idea is that we again, going back to what the concern is that for somebody who's a dedicated gamer or really spends most of their time, if not all their spare time, playing video games, it won't benefit you in the long run because you're going to be split both ways. You're going to have to buy every system if you want to play the IPs you want to play.
If you want, well, I think the concern is really only for people that have only ever exclusively played PC or console games.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a PC, which in this day and age, more than I would say, 90%, I would think of most households have at least some sort of personal computer that could play most of these games, even on like moderate settings. I'm not saying
Mhm.
high end, not ultra high settings, but you could still play it.
Mhm.
And they're going to be available at least through Microsoft's Ultimate Game Pass. If you own there's one scenario where if you have a PlayStation, but you want to play some IP that is only available on Microsoft's platform, you probably have a computer in the house that is capable of playing that. So if you get a subscription to Game Pass, then you're capable of downloading it and playing it in some capacity. It's the other scenario where you only play Xbox or PC and you really wanted to play a PlayStation game, then you are going to have to fork over probably a chunk of change to, if you can even find one, track down a PS5 and play that.
Right. Yeah, and like you say, if you can even find the hardware right now, I mean, Sony's solution to that was, well, we can't make more PlayStation 5s, so what we'll do is we'll make PlayStation 4s instead, right? I'm not sure if either of you saw the news.
I did not see that. No.
Yeah, I read it and I thought, yes, that's really going to solve the problem right there. Yes, I can't get hold of a PlayStation 5, so I'll just buy another PS4. It's the same, isn't it? It's the same. I mean, people were doing it with Xboxes, weren't they? They were buying Xbox.
I actually think
or whatever instead of the Series X.
I think a lot of people are tempted by the PlayStation 5, but we're still in a transition period where games can look as good on a PS4 Pro as they do on a PlayStation 5. If we're talking 4K, right? The difference here is solid frame rate. There's going to be some sacrifice on a PS4 Pro to make it as smooth as what a PS5 might handle straight out of the box. So, for example, like we recently had, I think at the end of last week, Guerrilla Games did their coverage of the Horizon Forbidden West PlayStation 4 portion of their game, showing you what the game looks and runs like on a PS4 Pro, making sure that all the gameplay footage and everything there was targeted at a PS4 Pro. Not once did they talk about it on PS5. And I think that is in part because, well, one, they know that most people have a PS4 still, and that is the larger player base have a PS4 than they do a PS5. And two, Sony's recent decision to increase manufacturing numbers on the PlayStation 4 and essentially to drive the price of those down to make them more affordable to more people, so they can still play effectively brand new games without being locked out of brand new games simply because, hardware shortage for whatever reason.
I think it was probably also to alleviate some people's doubts, because I know there was some doubt whether or not Forbidden West would even be able to run properly on a PS4 Pro or a base PS4. So I imagine they probably put that out there as well so that people didn't think, oh, I'm not sure, maybe I'll wait until I can get hold of a PS5 before I get Horizon. So now that they know for definite that it runs very nicely, they can be like, I'll still get it day one, even though I'm on the PS4 still.
That's right. And then we also have Sony moving into more technology spaces than Microsoft has recently as well. So in terms of like adaptation to the current iteration of console and accessories that the console offers, we have the PlayStation VR 2 coming soon, right? Which is the reiteration of, or effectively an improvement or next evolution of the PlayStation Move, which is Sony's. What I remember reading was their first serious foray into virtual reality, with innovative technology, not essentially playing catch up. They've built specific things into this PSVR 2 that no other VR set has done or is going to do at the time. Have you guys seen the VR 2? Have you checked that out? Have you seen it?
I've read a few things, but I've not watched any videos or seen any pictures of what it's going to look like or anything like that. I've not been like glued to the coverage of it, so I know very little. I just know that it's going to be a huge, like you say, a huge improvement on the current VR that they've got, and it's not going to be the PlayStation Move technology, which they used for it. So it's going to be a lot more up to modern standards, along with like the Vive and the Oculus and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think the thing that they were trying to sell the most of was that the technology they're using here is brand new, and that extends the controllers. So they've taken the DualSense feature of the essentially the haptic feedback feature of the DualSense. They've introduced that into not only the hands, the controls that you're using in the VR space, but also the headset. So you're getting full 3D audio that moves as you move your head and all that stuff. But you're also getting subtle vibrations, a bullet whizzing past your head, for example. Or,
oh, okay. I like the sound of that.
Or a vibration when someone shouts.
So
that kind of stuff.
We finally have like the version of the Sega Activator that we've always wanted.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking.
I don't know if you guys know what the fuck that thing is.
I have no idea what you're talking about, mate.
Really? Oh man, we'll have to have a little lesson on that later on.
It brings me back to Hollywood here. We were talking movies earlier. We look at things like Ready Player One, which takes virtual reality and kind of explodes it on the screen, right? It makes it super futuristic, as in you are inside the game. It's like an isekai in an anime, right? You are inside the video game, and that is the story. It's like full conscious transference, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at something like that, because I don't know if you've looked online, that there are independent tech companies that specifically focus on virtual reality gaming, and that includes things that you stand on with the belt that moves you around, that you run out on a 360 axis. Doesn't matter which way you go, and it keeps your weight up and all that stuff. There's lots of that technology out there right now, but with Sony being able to, they haven't announced prices, but I expect it to be a more affordable solution than those other options that you have. I think that's a pretty clear. It's made me rethink the subject of VR. Let's put it that way. As primarily a PC gamer, there are a handful, if that, of games that I would spend the money on buying something like an Oculus 4. Right? They're still, to me, a little bit gimmicky than they are an experience that I crave.
Mm-hmm.
But the VR2, after experiencing what the DualSense can do on something, let's say like Returnal, being able to experience Returnal VR with a headset that vibrates and gives me the full audio spectrum. If they can introduce the level of haptics they've got in the controller on my head, it's starting to make me reconsider my stance on whether I want VR. I'm not sure about you two.
Well, I'm, as you know, I was an early adopter of VR. I bought the Oculus Rift as like when it first came out.
Sold a kidney as well to buy it.
I basically sold a kidney, and that was before they'd even created the controllers. When it first came out, it didn't come with any controllers. It just came with an Xbox controller, and then it wasn't until like a year or two afterwards or whatever that they created the controllers. So I had to buy them as well.
Right.
And I think VR is really good. I think it's excellent, and I'm glad that it is still around and it hasn't died out like 3D TV and stuff. So it kind of shows that there is promise in it. And the stuff that I've played in VR, I mean, there's a lot of like shit that kicks about Steam and stuff, that's really awful. But some of the high end, like the high production value games, such as like there was an Arkham game that essentially felt like an extended demo, but it kind of gave you an idea of what VR was able to do. And that was good. I've talked about Elite Dangerous in VR, which is brilliant. I love Elite Dangerous in VR. Beat Saber, fantastic game, really good. So there's a lot of really awesome stuff that you can play in VR, and it's really good that I think that the price is coming down now. It's a lot cheaper now with like the Oculus Quest 2. It's still expensive, but not as expensive as it was. It's very
more accessible.
Affordable.
Yeah,
it's way more accessible, and the technology is a lot better now as well, because obviously you used to have that wire that goes down your back, and it can be you can get tangled up on your legs or whatever, and it can be a bit of a pain in the ass. But now you've got, again, the Oculus Quest, which is wireless, and self-contained as well. You can still run games from Steam and stuff on it if you've got the wire, but you can play Oculus games on their own, just anywhere essentially. So I think it's exciting that PlayStation are getting into trying to catch up with the Oculus.
Well, their opinion was less catch up, more lead.
Well, surpass, like catch up and overtake Oculus. It's good that they're trying to do that. Whether or not it'll be as affordable as the Oculus is a different story if they're creating all of this new technology. But I think it'll do well. I think it'll sell well. I might even get it because I've been pondering getting an Oculus Quest. It's
still rumors at this point, but the internet seems to think the PSVR 2 is likely to price at around $300.
That's not bad.
That's around the same as the Quest, so
yeah,
that's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's quite a fair price.
Mm-hmm.
If it's as good as we're hoping.
Yeah,
I mean,
Guerrilla Games, again, the guys who designed, sort of developed and built the Horizon franchise, they have made or are making a game exclusive for the PSVR 2 in the Horizon world. It's like a spin-off, like a more.
It's going to be Aloy's crossbow training.
Who knows? It does have a name. It's I can't think of the name, what it is at the moment, but it's essentially like it's called something like Horizon Shadow of the Sun or something like that. I can't. It's got something to do with fire or sun or something like that.
I was really hoping for a second that you were going to say Killzone. I want.
Yeah, I want to see the revival of that IP.
I want to see Killzone come back. As amazing as Horizon is, now that they're done making the sequel, I want them to bring back Killzone.
Give me a VR version of Killzone 2.
Yeah,
mate.
Like a fully realized VR version of Killzone 2, and we have a.
That's the dream that you've got going on there. That's the dream.
Yeah. Are there any studios that currently don't work on their the most popular IPs that you would like to see them revisit? So, for example, let's say Konami revisiting a new Castlevania, for example. How's it going, Torben? You right, man?
Yeah, living the dream, boys. How's it going?
Nice. Doing well, man. Doing well.
Good, thanks, man.
So, the subject we're talking about right now, as you might have heard, was we were talking about the PSVR 2, and that got us onto the subject of developers that are working on new IPs, but are there any of their existing IPs that you would like to see them go back and revisit? For example, I'll give it an example again, like Konami revisiting Castlevania, now its success on Netflix. It would make sense, right? It would make sense for younger gamers to be introduced to Castlevania's games now through the popularity of the TV show, and then through that they might be more likely to go back through the back catalogue, and monetize that as well with ultra collections and more special collections of their older games, right? So going back to that question, then are there any?
I was just going to say, Konami are revisiting the Castlevania series with their NFTs. Like, what are you talking about?
No, don't.
Let's not go down that road.
That's for a different podcast.
Remember, it's not only Konami here. We're also talking Square Enix and the like as well. Yep. Yeah. So, that could certainly be for something for next week. There's a whole thing a whole tangent we can go off with NFTs and these video game companies. Yeah. But are there any other studios that that made your favorite games, but have essentially just left them for dead and moved on, that you'd like to see either a sequel or a remake? Or
I forget who would own them now. I got a weird feeling it's Sierra, so it may well be Microsoft that owns this now, but I could be wrong. I would love to see the Wing Commander series come back. I would absolutely love that.
That's unlikely because the guy who designed all of that is head of
Star Citizen. That's of course he is. Yeah, you're quite right. Yeah, the guy that created Wing Commander is doing his Scrooge McDuck and diving through all the piles of cash he's got from Star Citizen.
I would just like to point out that belongs to the missus.
I'm
Or anyone
really
says anything?
glad you said that because I was looking at
I thought that was weekend attire for the podcast listeners. Torben has a very erotic looking. It looks to me, it looks almost silk, but it's essentially
Not sure.
it's
Hang on.
an all-in-one top thong.
We've got a party to head to tomorrow night with one of the
those.
local MCs, the Red Devils, and that's the top half of the missus' outfit. So
What
Okay.
the fuck is a party?
I put it on and bust it, which was more like I know it's a size 16, but I am 22 stone. So
Okay, so reverting back to the conversation I had. So Mule thinks Wing Commander, which we know isn't a possibility, but in an ideal world, that is what he would like to see. If like, you know, if allegiances weren't an issue and it was simply just the original developer going back to make a new IP, a new version of an old IP, you know, a sequel or whatever, or even just will remake this game in its entirety. You know, Konami
Midway
Metal
Games
Gear, for
still going?
example. Midway? I don't know.
Midway Games. Hang on, let me have a quick look.
Don't think so.
No, defunct 2010. Gutted.
Yeah.
I would love someone to buy up the IP for a game called Psyops. Know if anyone
Right.
here played that.
I've
I've
heard of that. I haven't played it, but I have.
The
heard of
Mindgate
that. I remember
conspiracy.
that.
It was, for me at least, peak PlayStation 2. Absolutely peak. So the whole concept of it was you're like a Spec Ops operative, and through the course of the game you gain telekinesis, pyrokinesis, astral projection, and mind control.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 4 bosses in the game that all specialize in each class. But if you have a little Google, it's a little bit dated now, but I would absolutely love for that to come back. And they had a fun little arena mode you could have with it as well, where instead of playing through the story, you'd just jump into an arena. You could practice with, like, you'd have all the powers maxed, so you could just muck around, and it was really fun.
Excellent.
Really, really fun.
Never heard of it. Psyops for the
The Mindgate
PlayStation
conspiracy.
2, the Mindgate conspiracy.
Yeah, PS2.
And how about you, Retro? I know there's a plethora of games.
Well,
being a retro video game collector, there's a lot of games that are basically dead now that you might enjoy.
that are dead, but would I want to see them remade? I don't know. There's only one that really stands out to me, and I would say I would want to see a revival. I would want to see a revival / also expansion of the Eternal Darkness IP.
Right. Okay. The Eternal Darkness.
Yeah, it was a exclusive game.
I was really expecting you to say The Legend of Zelda. You know, something like
no.
like
I
one of the
think
older ones.
that's. Oh, as far as a revival of the older ones. Hey,
Yeah.
Nintendo, could you get off your fucking asses and give us that Legend of Zelda 3D All Stars as well as an Oracles of Seasons and Ages remake, please? Because yeah, you really pissed off a lot of people with that 35th anniversary. I would love to see that. Honestly, is it ever going to happen? No. So I don't openly, mention it. But I think there are plenty of other one-offs from the GameCube and the Wii era. Oh, I mean, another one, Capcom. I would love them to bring back Zack and Wiki, point and click puzzle game.
Mm-hmm.
That was so overlooked on the Wii, but is a cult favorite now. Remake it or make another one, please, for the love of fucking God.
Zack and Wiki. It's not a game I'm familiar with.
I played it on Twitch not too long ago, but it's something that you either have heard about it or you haven't. And it's, if you haven't heard of it, it's a really quirky, funny point and click adventure game where you're playing through self-enclosed levels where to get through the stage you have to figure out the right order of actions to take in order to proceed to the next level, in order to solve the puzzle. The whole level itself is a puzzle, and so there's motion control to it. So you're picking up items, you're also transforming things because you have this special companion that you can ring like a bell.
Mm-hmm.
And it can turn an enemy into an item or an item into an enemy. and vice versa. And so you're just having to kind of stumble your way through a lot of levels. And failing in the game is also just really funny because, Zach dies in like hilarious ways if you screw up the order of something.
No different than something like Dragon's Lair, where you make the wrong decision and they fall in the pit and die.
It was very much a charming homage to Dragon's Lair and Space Ace, a lot of the early like point and click games.
I think you pronounced Space Ace wrong there, Retro. I think you need to say that properly.
I don't know, how would that...
Spice!
Oh, Spice Ice.
Got another one, because he mentioned Eternal Darkness, and I don't know why it came to me. You know the skeletal centurion in Eternal Darkness? Like vaguely. If you search it up, it'll no doubt be one of the images that pop up for you. There's a game that reminded me of. Does anyone remember on the original PlayStation, Medieval?
Oh yeah, they remade it.
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah, they remade it on the PlayStation 4.
It wasn't that long ago, was it?
No, it was a couple of years ago. They completely remade the original Medieval on PS4, and it's not the same game as Medieval Resurrection, which was on the PSP. This was an entirely different remake.
I am currently Googling, and thank you for that.
It's an amazing game. It's an amazing.
I now need a PlayStation. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon now, ordering it as we speak.
It's on PlayStation. If you had a PlayStation, it is available.
A new PC and a motorbike.
Well, that's no good.
My wife. So. No,
I was going to say, if you did own a PlayStation, it's available to play on PS Now if you have the subscription service, which actually leads me into the next subject quite nicely. A nice segue is PlayStation's or Sony PlayStation's answer to Game Pass. Their subscription model that they have kind of been talking about and given us a little bit of information about looks like we're finally going to learn about it fairly soon. Have you guys encountered that news also?
Yeah, I think they were calling it Project Spartacus or something like that.
Yeah, codename Spartacus, yeah.
That's right.
Next spring, I think it is.
Spring.
Well, this spring, sorry. That would have been as of December. So
much like what Microsoft has done with Game Pass and then Xbox games with Gold, trying to essentially merge the services together in the subscription model. And my imagination runs a little bit wild with Sony's because they have a few more services. The big two being PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now. PlayStation Now being it's already a fairly small exclusive library of games that you can stream but don't download, right? PS Now is a library of games that they select, and they're not necessarily new games. They might have been on, in the library for quite a while. And in order to play them, you don't download the game to your system and play offline. It's online connection only, and the game is streamed. That could be wrong because I've never tried that before.
I do believe that there are limited games on there that you can download instead of stream.
Right,
but I believe that, as you say,
the majority
for the most part, is a streaming service. Yeah.
So the concept of them blending PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now into a subscription service to rival Game Pass, would you welcome that? Would you welcome the concept of further fanning the flames with regards to our choices of gaming competitors having subscription models? So, taking day one exclusives for Sony and allowing you to play them on whatever their subscription service will eventually be called. As long as they do have day one releases on there. I think you think that's
really
good. You think day one it has to have a day one. If it doesn't do day one,
it's no competition to Game Pass Ultimate if they don't.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, if they want to compete with Microsoft, they have to do day one exclusives on there.
If they don't, nothing in Game Pass will change. If they do, Game Pass has to evolve in order to be the premier thing again. But I always encourage competition as much as it's the a little bit. Oh, I like PS, I like Xbox, all that nonsense, which nobody really benefits from. But the actual manufacturers competing against each other will always push them to adapt and evolve and make new things.
Yeah.
Whereas if Microsoft continue buying everything out and monopolizing gaming in a way, they won't evolve, and then they control the market, and then they can start messing around with pricing and all sorts of things, because there's nothing there to go, well, this is the price, but it should be lower. Show me something that's competitive that's lower.
Yeah.
There's nothing, so they would just...
I agree. That's why I was kind of hoping, well, I mean, it may still happen, but I was kind of hoping that Sony may buy out a few, like, acquire maybe a few more.
Do you think
studios?
In answer to
that isn't Bungie.
Okay, well, one of the other rumored ones. Well, we already know that PlayStation are getting exclusive Square games. Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy Origin Stranger of Paradise is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Fantasy 6.
No, Stranger of Paradise.
Oh, sorry, it's Final Fantasy 16 is the PlayStation 5 exclusive. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you think it's outside of the realm of Sony to be able to afford to purchase Square Enix outright and make those games exclusive to PlayStation, knowing that most of those games?
I think they would struggle with that. Yeah.
I don't think they would. I read somewhere recently that it's Square Enix is estimated to be worth about $7 billion.
Wow, that's surprisingly low.
I'm sure that's what I read somewhere. I may be wrong.
In the grand scheme of the two things we were talking about with regards to Bungie's acquisition at $3.8 billion, I would think Square would be far more valuable. But that's, I mean, $7 billion might be what they're estimated at. That could be 100% correct.
Let me have a look, because I don't want to.
In any case,
I'm sure.
Regardless of
$9 billion market cap, apparently.
Well, $9 billion. Then that's
9 billion.
Still a lot of money.
5.9.
Yeah, so just shy of 6
billion. 5.9. Sorry, I misheard you.
So it's actually lower than the 7 that you thought was under.
Yeah,
so net income is 26.9. So I don't understand how that.
So do you think that would be a smart move for Sony to be able to acquire someone like Square Enix?
Yeah, I think it would. Given what's just happened with Activision Blizzard, I think that it would be a smart move just to kind of keep them on their toes a little bit more and still.
I think we also have to remember
able to compete with each other.
That I'm not entirely sure where Sony's headquarters are now situated, whether that is in the US or whether that is in Japan. But, you know, Square Enix, and probably the same as Square Enix, I'm not sure whether they're based in the US or they're based in Japan right now in terms of headquarter-wise, but there are roots and certain allegiances to having a Japanese manufacturer buy and own a Japanese video game company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sony's HQ is Minato City, Tokyo, in the Kanto region, Tokyo Prefecture.
There you go. So it would make sense that there would be a certain loyalty to that system over, obviously, the alternative to selling or wanting to be bought out by Microsoft.
They are worth 10.7 US billion. That's their net income, sorry.
I say that seems. I was going to say that seems very low.
Yeah, that was their net income. My apologies.
I don't think Sony would have a problem financially acquiring or swallowing that company due to the nature. We had the recent news, didn't we? That with Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, that made them the third largest tech company, something like that. I can't remember what it was. Third largest video game company, third largest tech company, behind Sony at number 2. So we already know that Sony's reach in terms of their income across all of the stuff that they manufacture, make, own, sell, whatever, it's currently more than Microsoft is, even with their most recent acquisition at 78
Really?
billion.
I find that kind of hard to believe. I would have thought that Microsoft would be worth far more than Sony.
You would think. But Sony, it's obviously not down to simply, Xboxes and PlayStations, It's
I'm thinking
any of
of
the technology that they built.
everything.
Yeah. You know, because
Coding-
Microsoft don't make PCs. They make an operating
No,
system
no.
for a PC, don't they?
Well, are you also talking about just Microsoft Studios, or are you talking about Microsoft as
Microsoft as a
entity?
corporation, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
they blanket out Sony in an instant. In terms of actual, I think Microsoft somewhere in the region of 2 trillion, isn't they?
Well, the news when Activision Blizzard broke that had been purchased. I'm not sure if it was on their official. I'm just looking at their official thing now. But the reports were that the acquisition itself put them behind Sony for whatever moniker they were referring or comparing themselves to. I'm not sure whether it is like largest tech company or whatever it was. But while I'm looking that up, there's also
go on.
I was going to say there's also the consideration over that deal with regards to the CEO, right? So Phil Spencer is currently the CEO of Microsoft Gaming or Xbox Gaming, whatever that part of the business is called. With the idea of him taking over the role, or basically overtaking the current CEO of Activision Blizzard at the end of next year, I think, the end of the financial year next year, I believe. So
I'm reading a little post on a blog called Hard Drive, and apparently Microsoft has a market cap of over 2 trillion, and Sony's is 150 billion. And for years, apparently, Microsoft has maintained 100 billion cash on hand in the case that they can write 100 billion check on the spot, and it'd be fine. So I can't, like, Microsoft as an entire company could literally just swallow Sony if Sony was willing to sell, of course.
So there's another quote here by a Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, which comments the fact that with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, in quotes, even with Activision Blizzard, will be number 3. But the article on here we go. Sorry, the executive argued that the games industry is highly fragmented and claimed that even after its acquisition, even after the deal goes through, it would be the 3rd largest company by revenue behind Tencent and Sony. So the metric they're going by is revenue.
Revenue.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say Sony will always outperform on revenue. But
so that is the comparison they're joining. Yeah. So
but the thing, in my view at least, Microsoft have adapted a lot in recent years, where the consoles and the systems they sell aren't just gaming systems anymore.
No, they're media
multimedia
system. Yeah.
Whereas Sony still, as is the way with Japanese culture, they focus on the one thing and punch at that.
Yeah.
Whereas Microsoft are trying to blank it out.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. My Xbox, which I don't own, would be my daily Netflix driver. Just like Retro's Xbox is his daily dust gatherer.
I don't own. I'm only PC nowadays, but I've always been Xbox. The last PlayStation I had was the PS4. I had the launch one, hardly played it, and then we had a power cut in the house, and it grenaded my PS4. So I sent it off, got a replacement, and that one ended up going bang as well, and I never bothered buying another one.
I could certainly understand why. So we've spoken about Microsoft and Sony, but there's another elephant in the room here that we haven't bothered speaking about, and that's Nintendo.
Yeah.
So Nintendo know what they do, and they do it very well, right? They've got their first-party games, and they know doesn't matter what they do with these first-party games, they're going to sell. They're like hotcakes. Yeah. With the recent launch of Pokemon Arceus or Arceus, however you want to pronounce that, what are your thoughts with what does Nintendo really need to compete? Do they really need to worry about these other companies acquiring these studios? No, when Nintendo have been doing this for years, they own all of the studios that make the first party games.
You literally answered your own question in the run up to it. They are doing their own thing, and whatever they make will just push. Mm-hmm. They don't need to, even though they are. I think their market cap somewhere near 55, 60 billion. They are literally their own entity. I don't see Nintendo as having competition because their segment is very niche.
So the competition for the Nintendo Switch will inevitably be the Steam Deck, right? So the Steam Deck, which is Valve's new handheld console, which is effectively a handheld PC with their own custom Steam operating system on it and Steam. But you can do everything on this Steam Deck as if it was a PC. Go on the browser, do your Word documents, whatever it is that you do on the PC, because it's essentially just a PC. With the option...
Bit, then.
Sorry?
Is that constant uplink required then? Obviously?
No, so... obviously if you want to be able to download and play a game, you don't need to be connected to the internet to once you've downloaded it. I think the concept is not streaming the game through Steam because they know the input lag could be atrocious there, and PC gamers are very pedantic about input lag, more so than a console gamer. That the concept is a download and play, not stream and play.
Okay, yeah, that'll work.
So,
that was my immediate thing, like, oh, shit, okay.
Yeah, we don't need to stream it, yeah.
Gonna go cloud gaming then. Right, okay, cool.
Yeah, so they support the cloud saves on Steam. You still have Steam Cloud and all that jazz, so you can copy your saves across multiple systems if you want to play it on one PC and then play it again on another PC. So it still has cloud systems, but if we focus on the subject here about... Do you think Nintendo are going to shift their focus or try to bring any form of innovation once the Steam Deck is launched? Do you think the Steam Deck is going to stir the pot enough to force Nintendo to rethink their strategy?
Not at all. Because the simple answer to that question is: are you going to have Mario games on Steam Deck? Are you going to have Pokemon? Are you going to have any of those IPs? It's you talk about Nintendo doing
illegitimately, yes. Legitimately, no.
Yeah, I mean, you get a modded version.
Illegally, yes.
We're not going to talk about emulation, Hawk. Let's not open that can of worms. But Nintendo is steadily veering away from: are they a powerhouse for hardware innovation, or are they a known commodity for IP generation?
Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? You get it for your Super Mario, your Legend of Zelda, your Pokemon.
Well,
that's why you buy those systems.
Yeah, well, that's
when they do come out.
Yeah, and we'll get another one in 10 years or so. Metroid Prime 4 in 2034. But it's for the known commodities on a Nintendo system. But I think Nintendo has also been doing a better job of experimentation, adaptation of their IPs. It's not just rehashing the same shit over and over again. Although, I mean, the Switch has seen its fair share of ports of Wii U games, Mario Kart 8,
Skyward Sword HD.
Skyward Sword HD. I mean, we're going a little even older now. We're talking Wii games, but you brought up Pokemon Legends Arceus, and that's how I pronounce it.
Same.
Mega fans out there, do not fucking send me hate mail. I'm not going to respond to it, period. But you also don't know my email, so. But yeah, you brought up Pokemon Legends Arceus, and even in just like the 3 or 4 hours that I've played of it, I have just been enraptured by it. It's such a change to the just even the simplest of mechanics, that I have been fully engaged in it, and I can't wait to see what they do next. And so if the Pokemon Company, if Game Freak, if Nintendo is at least allowing them a little bit more slack to reinvent their core IP, then Nintendo can do the same, and then maybe even is something that they're going to be incorporating into their game development philosophy, because that's always been at the heart of Nintendo anyway. It's about the game. Is it fun to play? And that's why Nintendo IPs sell, because they are usually 9 times out of 10, really fun to play.
They're normally quite stylized games, though, as well, aren't they? First-party games on the Nintendo are stylized in a way where they don't have to produce graphics, let's say, like Horizon Forbidden West, where it's not the 4K spectacle of every blade of grass has to have some kind of detail. It's they take the experience of playing a game, and that's what they focus on versus the guffins or the fancy dressing around it, right? They get they get the game right, and everything else around it is secondary in nature.
I think
that's not
actually in that.
Go
Oh yeah, go on. No,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, in that respect, that is where they've maintained their success, in spite of the other systems going AAA. Is that the stuff they produce focuses on playability. It focuses on keeping you involved, regardless of what you're looking at.
Yeah,
and there are games out there that look fantastic, but are empty.
Sure. Biomutant, I would argue, is one of those games. More recently,
I gave up halfway through.
Looks absolutely fantastic, but
I'm so glad you can finally admit that.
Empty experiences can be enjoyable too, and I must admit, I enjoyed my time through it. But that being said, when we talk about large open worlds with a lot of detail, you need to fill those worlds with something. I mean, Cyberpunk is another example of that, right? It's a fairly empty game considering how good it looks graphically. But yeah, Biomutant is an enjoyable game for a certain amount of hours, and then you start to realize that there isn't anything else coming. That is the game. There's no progression.
Hour 2 is the same as hour 20.
Yeah, exactly. Or hour 50 in my case. It doesn't change. You collect the things, you move on. You collect some more things, you move on. Yeah. You collect some more things, you move on. You collect. That is basically it.
Hey, don't knock the collectathon though.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah, there are a lot of beautiful games out there that are simply empty. But sometimes game that works in detriment to the game. You look at something like Red Dead Redemption 2, right, which has a lot of detail in the worlds, but the places that you travel from and to, same as The Witcher 3, they're fairly kind of like blanket, rolling hills, cliffsides, trees. It's not like, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of NPCs piled on top of each other in these multi-layered cities everywhere you look. So sometimes what I'm trying to say is the scarcity of something, let's say like in Death Stranding, when you're walking from A to B everywhere, the beauties in the journey, it doesn't necessarily have to be full of everything if that works in favor of the game. But sometimes, like in the case of Biomutant, it works it works the other way around. It doesn't work because they haven't nailed that right. But yeah, I mean, other games, something like Days Gone. I'm not sure if any of you people have played Days Gone. That would be another example of big open worlds, which are perfectly fine, but they're fairly empty. Can anybody else think of any other examples? Big open worlds that look incredible, but they're just cause. Yeah. I could
it's literally just base assault simulator, isn't it?
If you were to look at something like Breath of the Wild sorry, go on, Mule.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to wind up retro.
if you was to compare something like Breath of the Wild, right? So because although Breath of the Wild seems universally loved by most people, it seems within at least my social circle, it's a little bit Marmite. Some people love it and some people hate it. You're either one of the two. You're not in the middle.
What? I mean, you're not going to wind me up, Mule, because there's a certain level I agree with you.
It sounds like you've thrown down a gauntlet there, Retro.
No. You dislike. What is it you dislike? The repetitive gestures. You have to go find shrines, and you have to.
It's just something just didn't click with me on Breath of the Wild. I am going to give it another go. I do want to give it another go because I know how popular it is, and there's things that I really did enjoy in Breath of the Wild. It's just, I don't know. something just didn't click.
The thing with Breath of the Wild,
I was only joking when I was going to say the open world is empty. That's clearly not the case. There's a lot to do in that open world. I think it's probably done very well.
I think
You're
that's
not
probably
wrong, though,
it's. Carry on, Retro.
I was going to say you're not wrong. The world is massive, and it can take sometimes an exorbitant amount of time to get from point A to point B. From one objective to the next.
That's the journey, right? That's the point.
The journey is what they have thrown in your path. That if you play the game like I did, I don't know if this is how you went about your first few hours, Mule, where game told me to go put a marker down on the map. My path would take me about 3 miles in that direction, opposite of where it was telling me to go. I'd wander around, I'd explore. I would then maybe make some progress towards my objective, and then I would see a shiny, I'd see something shiny off in the distance, and I'd run beeline that way and be like, "What are we doing over here? What is it?"
That I believe is the funnel. That's what the developer would want you to do. They wouldn't want you to play,
which that clicked with me because that's what I do in those kind of open world games. It's what happens when I play an Elder Scrolls game. You put me in Skyrim, I'm not going to run immediately towards an objective marker. I'm going to probably go the exact opposite direction. I'm going to go poke around in the world and see what I can do.
I was literally going to point out Elder Scrolls as a fine example of that, and the other one that caught me in the rapture of look, shiny thing is The Witcher 3. The success of that game is in that premise. It says go here, and then they give you 600 kilometers of land to cover in all directions before you can get there.
Yeah,
and there's so much to do in that space.
I would say that's the knock against I was going to say Twilight Princess. The knock against Breath of the Wild is that there's a very short list of things that actually happen in the world. There are no true and proper side quests, like proper storylines that are fleshed out in Breath of the Wild. There is just the main storyline, which is not even really fully fleshed out over the course of the game. You're given just snippets of it in like flashback sequences and just ominous messages that you get over the course of the game. But in the case of like you bring up Witcher 3 or Elder Scrolls, there are actual like genuine nuggets of well thought out writing, character development, and world building that you can just, you find that little exposed part of a vein and you start mining away at it, and it just breaks open the entire world, and you find entire new segments of the game that you wouldn't have uncovered otherwise.
I
agree. Yeah, 100%. The question I was, what I was going back to here was like Nintendo not having to create these huge graphical beauties because the games are stylized. Like Breath of the Wild is a very unique art style, and Breath of the Wild itself has spawned a genre now. Like there are a lot of clones of Breath of the Wild.
Being one.
It is a fun game.
One of the more popular gacha games right now, like Genshin Impact, right, is essentially Breath of the Wild free to play. With gacha thrown in.
a rotating cast of characters. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think Breath of the Wild's impact isn't necessarily just because of it being a popular game, as in people have enjoyed it. I think it's the nature of the game itself that is grown in popularity and people wanting to emulate that success versus simply wanting to create another open world and fill it with quests and all that jazz. But I totally agree with what you said there. I was very excited to see Nintendo get some form of competition in the handheld gaming race because essentially they were the only the only horse in that race. And with the Steam Deck, Valve's foray into hardware previously has never gone particularly well. Looking at the Steam controller or the Steam Link or other forays that they've done prior to those, they've never gone well. But it seems at least from all the coverage that we've been given by the Steam Deck, whether we can trust this coverage or not, is that it's a hit. It's a good idea. It works extremely well. Yes, you won't be able to run the latest AAA games at Ultra. but you will be able to play them on decent enough settings on a screen that's far smaller that you would never be able to tell the difference on. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, Nintendo's lineup for 2022, do we know what that looks like? So we spoke earlier about Sony's lineup for 2022. We spoke about Microsoft's lineup for 2022. And we saw that Sony's lineup far, far outweighed Microsoft's in terms of games we're looking forward to. But I'd be interested to learn about what we're looking at here in 2022 for Nintendo.
Well, I mean,
According to this, notable releases.
I was-
Obviously,
the biggest
Legend.
one is Breath of the Wild 2. It's the sequel to Breath of the Wild. You got
Mhm.
Kirby, you got Splatoon 3, you've got the Mario and Rabbids sequel, which I'm actually really excited about that one because it looks like a noticeable evolution from the original Mario and Rabbids.
Mhm.
Chocobo GP. I know Nell's like super excited about that, and I'll probably grab it.
Bayonetta 3.
Bayonetta 3, Triangle Strategy.
That's my jam.
Those are the big ones that I'm seeing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll include obviously Pokemon Arceus or anything that released in January, of course.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah,
It
I
was
was
this
going to
year,
say I've
but-
got their list here, which is Arceus, Splatoon 3, Mario and Rabbids, as mentioned. Pac-Man Museum, March 24th. Kirby, March 25th. And
Do
then,
you
like
think-
as Retro said, the sequel to Breath of the Wild.
So Nintendo is far more welcoming to a younger audience of gamers, right? There are a lot more games that
Yeah.
you can play on a Nintendo Switch aimed at 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old boys and girls. Do you think seeing a new Kirby game, for example, this video game character that a 4, 5, 6-year-old boy or girl would have no clue, they wouldn't have a clue what it is. They just see this pink, bubbly thing with eyes and big feet. Do you think that would be enough for them to say, Mummy and Daddy, I want a Nintendo Switch for Christmas? Do you think Bayonetta 3 would be enough for Mummy and Daddy, I want a Switch for Christmas?
Before we answer that question, can we have a break? I feel like we've been talking for hours and my bladder is going to explode.
We're going to wrap this up in about a minute, mate.
Oh, okay.
So we'll wrap it up in a second. Or you can go for a wee while we wrap it up. It's fine.
No, I'll wait it out. I'll wait it out.
I was
Get the
just going to
bottle.
say, in terms of like characters like Kirby, they're more of the only people I know that are excited about that are people who already know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a nostalgia factor. The Switch, in my opinion, lives based on nostalgia factor. As far as Bayonetta, that game will only pull based on its marketing. It's a very stylized, actiony, look at me game. So if they don't market it well, it'll just sail under the radar.
And then you have Sonic Frontiers. Is that this year? Or is that next year?
I believe that's gonna be next year.
Which is their
Like,
open world Breath
Sonic
of the
game.
Wild Sonic game.
Is anybody bothered about that? Do we need
This is what I mean. Like
Sonic game?
This is what I mean. I think Breath of the Wild 2 will sell consoles. It sold the console the first time round. It will sell the console the second time round. But I'm more concerned about the other games. Like Breath of the Wild stands far above the others in terms of an anticipated video game, because I think most people would consider Breath of the Wild the greatest ever game Nintendo's ever made. I can imagine Retro's turning in his grave right now because he's a huge Nintendo fan. But the truth
Am I dead?
the truth of the fact, yes, the truth of the fact is that that is probably the case. That is probably the best selling video game of all time, or if not, it's very close to it.
I mean, it was a system seller. I don't know numbers. I don't have those in front of me. I would say it was. I would say it's probably might still stand today as the Switch's biggest selling title.
But let's say like Horizon Forbidden West. If you didn't own a PlayStation 5 and you had the money and you could get the console, would you buy a PlayStation for that game?
Yeah, for Horizon, personally.
Would you believe me if I told you Mario Kart 8 beats it in terms of sales?
No, I wouldn't be surprised at that.
I wouldn't be surprised at that.
No.
So, in terms of best-selling games ever made, Breath of the Wild is 28th.
Okay.
Really? What are the top three?
Minecraft, GTA 5, Tetris.
Makes sense.
I'm talking
Is that-
exclusive to like a Nintendo, just the Nintendo games.
I thought you were saying of all time. Okay.
No,
I'm
that's what I
talking
asked.
Yeah, I'm referring to like Nintendo's greatest selling
first
games
party
all the time.
IPs.
Yeah. So that would include Mario Kart, which I imagine would probably outsell Breath of the Wild.
Let's see. Mario Kart 8, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Smash Ultimate.
Interesting.
That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that.
So what we're saying here, gamers, is it doesn't matter where you play your video games. There are good video games everywhere.
Yep.
So we'll probably everyone's like just want to.
Was there
Just wanna-
there's supposed to be something else to that? I don't know.
You're supposed to just agree with me and be like, yes, totally, Hawk. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
No,
100% with you.
You can own a PlayStation or you can own an Xbox, but you should probably also own a Switch if you own either one of those.
And let's be honest,
PC.
if PC Master Race, hair blown in the wind, top off. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're probably going to call the podcast there. Thank you very much to Mr. GamingMule, Mr. RetroResurrection, and Mr. TorbenFell this week. Thank you to everybody that's listening right now. I suppose all the links to everybody's Twitches, social medias, and all that jazz I'll make sure is in the descriptions and all the places where you can normally click the things across all of the places such as SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Thank you for joining me. And is there any closing sentences from anybody else? Anybody want to say anything? Mule, I know you're dying to go for a piss. Is anybody...
Just remember that Hawk is the anime GuWu.
Yeah.
The GuWu.
The
Did you-
GuWu.
No, that was intentional.
Fuck's sake.
All right then, guys. Thank you very much.